Hi, I'm William.
Hi, and I'm Ed. Today we're going to talk about safety using our ARRI Light Kit.
After you watch this video, we're going to have you take a little bit of an eligibility quiz to let us know that you've got all of this.
Our main purpose is safety. We want to make sure that we don't feel bad if you go home and burn your house down or maybe cut the end of your finger off when you handle some of this equipment incorrectly. So we're going to go all over safety. If you want to know more about using these kits for lighting effects and the kind of things that you really want to know about using them for, check with our workshop schedule. We have a complete array of lighting workshops that'll show you how to use this equipment. Today's workshop is all about safety, which means don't hurt you, don't hurt the property you're working in.
The first thing I want to point out is we've got an initial no-no right sitting on the set with us. We have this kit kind of open and in the way. This is something you don't ever want to have. So I'm going to go ahead and close this kit up, kind of get it out of the way.
It's those little things, children. You got to watch for these things. That's not only a trip hazard. It's it's a theft hazard. It's a somebody fall over hazard. It does nobody any good hazard, and it's also in the way of people moving around. So you want to get that kind of stuff dressed up on your set all the time. More safety involved than you might realize.
Some of the other things we're going to talk about are strain relief on these lights. One of the big things about these lights is that on the back of them, the wires come directly out of the back. These wires, if left alone to hang off the back, will eventually start tearing off and start shorting out. So it's very important that you provide this type of strain relief for these cables when you're using these lights. It's also very important that you remember where you want these lights placed before you start plugging them in. You don't want to plug in a light, set it up, and then start moving it around.
Before you start moving lights around, why don't you show them those things you have in your left hand?
These gloves will come in very, very handy. These lights get very, very hot very, very quickly. There's a light behind me that's been on for about 5 minutes, and if I touched it with my bare hand, I'd probably come away with second-degree burns. So once these lights are on, you should start using these gloves. These guys will keep you from losing a finger or your fingerprints.
All right. As William said, before you decide where you put your lights together, you want to decide where they go. That starts with your light stand. Now, these light stands are already put together and they've got the lights mounted on them. Didn't mean to cut in front of you there, William. But you want to make sure that you deal with your light stand and your light appropriately. And that involves setting the light stand up before you put the head on the thing, if I may. This head is properly applied, so I'm going to take it off. Give myself a little trouble. There we go. If you'll hold that for 1 second. Stability, you want to make sure that if at all possible, you get your structure horizontal to the ground. Extend from the bottom one first. You don't want to use your weakest link first. You want to use your strongest link first. So you extend to approximately where you need to go. Leave yourself some room if you're going to go way up so that you can put your lamp on. You want to be careful right here that if you've got your hand here and this thing slips and falls, you got a real bad pinch hazard. So watch what happens right there. So you get your head approximately where you want it to go height-wise, and then you put the head on. If you will, William, narrate how you did that.
Once you've got a wing nut right here that needs to be loose. Once this is loose, you can slide the fixture right onto the tripod. Once it's on the tripod, you want to make sure that it comes all the way down, that you're not halfway on or halfway off. Once you're on and you've got your light positioned, you can go ahead and tighten up this wing nut. Hand tight, you never want to take tools to any of these. Hand tight should always be good enough. Okay,
you also notice when you put that lamp on the stand, use it so that the yoke stays vertical. There's a hole here that you could, in certain situations, you can hang this thing out straight, but for stability, you want to keep your yoke going vertical as opposed to laying the head on here this way. So it's an attractive option to lay it out, but it gives you real stability problems if you do that. Here again, watch for the weight of the head. When you start to extend, if you're doing this and this slips, this thing comes down and makes mincemeat out of my fingertips. So you want to be real careful about that. I think we talked about strain relief on the plug. Let's talk about what happens when that plug leaves the lamp, has strain relief, and then what happens.
Once you've got strain relief, you'll run it across the floor, preferably along a wall to an outlet or under a rug or something like that. You don't want to run it straight across your floor. The reason being is you create a trip hazard. You don't ever want to have a space where you say, hey guys, watch that space when you walk over it. You want to have all of that concealed so people aren't tripping and bringing lights down on top of themselves. If you decide to use tape, only ever use gaff tape. Any other kind of tape will leave a sticky residue on these wires. And if you're going to use gaff tape, pull the tape up before you pull the wire up. You don't want to pull the wire up and then be peeling tape off of it because the tape has a tendency to wrap completely around the wire. Then you have to go find a knife or some scissors and you end up cutting through the insulation on the wire. Pull the tape up, then bring the wire up, wrap it back up, and pack it all away.
And that's a safety tip, because if you don't do it, it makes us all go crazy, and that just leads to all kinds of dangerous things. So that's why that's a safety tip. We've covered how to mount the lamps. We've covered how to get the things strain relief. We've covered put the cords away. I want to talk for one real quick second. When you start to apply accessories, you want to pay attention to what we referred to earlier, incredible heat. This light diffusion box here, light box, is made so that it does not burn if you keep your vent open. And we teach this in the class, that you want to keep these vents open, but people inevitably think they've got to close these things up, and they create a heat problem that in fact will set this lamp on fire. And if you can look inside of here, the whole thing is charred where people put it away improperly and then kept all the heat bound up in there. Total flame hazard, fire hazard, and then it relates to putting your equipment away improperly, that this stuff was obviously put away while it was so hot it was burning through the material it touched. Just a real bad deal there. I think relative to heat, that leads us up to how much power these things draw, and the infamous, there's math involved, children. Sorry, and this I can tell you will be on your test. The math that is involved is very, very important. It's how you are able to plug these things into your house or an office or wherever you happen to be located. If you don't know the math and you plug it in correctly, you're going to have a huge problem. I know, for example, here at AOC, we can't make popcorn and coffee at the same time because we don't have the capacity. You might think of this as our popcorn machine and this is our coffee machine. You've got to do some math. And I think William wrote the math down.
Yeah, you've got 4 lights in this kit, each with a separate different wattage. This light here is our smallest light. It draws 300 watts. Then you have 2 middle-sized lamps that draw 650 each. And then the light with the softbox here draws 1,000 watts. So the way you figure out what an individual circuit can handle is you take the wattage of the lamp, in this case 300, and then divide that by 100. That'll give you a 3 amp draw. Now most home circuits can handle between 15 and 20 amps. You don't want to go over 15 amps because if you're relying on 20 amps, you're also relying on the fact that your house's wiring is completely up to spec. This is not always true. So if I've got this lamp and the 650 lamp running on the same circuit, that's a draw of about 9.5 amps. So that's within a safety threshold of 15 amps. That would be okay. However, if I'm then plugging in my soundboard and my camera and any other equipment, I have to take those things into consideration as well. So this 1,000 watt light, you probably shouldn't run anything else on its circuit. You should probably let it run by itself. This 300 watt light and this 650 can probably run on a circuit with maybe another piece of equipment. But you don't want to be combining 2 650s, a 300, a camera, and a soundboard. That's when the wiring in your house, that's when either your circuit will pop or the wiring in your house will start to heat up and you have a fire hazard. So the math again is you take the wattage of the lamp, divide that by 100, and that's how many amps the light is pulling. And most home circuits are about 15 amps.
You live with 15. If you're in an industrial situation and it's 20, then you're lucky. But if you can work in 15, you're safe. According to my notes, I think we covered everything. You got any final words before we put this away, other than don't
When
forget?
putting this away,
Yeah,
turn these guys off before you do anything else. Before you start tearing down, turn these guys off, then go tear down your cameras, tear down your sets, tear down your sound equipment, then come and revisit these. If they have cooled off enough, then you can pack them away. Do not ever pack them away hot. Like Ed said, that's one of the reasons you get burns and stuff like this. Besides the fact that it's not being vented properly, it was not put away properly. It was put away hot. And that can cause all sorts of problems. You'll burn your softbox, you'll melt insulation, you'll pop bulbs, all sorts of crazy stuff. So let these guys cool. Remember to use your gloves. Remember to tear your tape up before you start pulling up your wires. And I think that's
pretty much it.
pretty much it.
I do have a sample of a 3rd-degree burn here. We're going to get a close-up. This is what happens if you mishandle a light kit. You got that, Samuel? All right. We can cut that out if we have to, but we are serious about burning your stuff. We're serious about fire. We're serious about topple danger, and we're serious about abuse of our equipment that ends up in being a dangerous situation. But having said all that, kind of thanks for watching. Take the test, check the light kit out, and if you really want to know what this is all about and how to work it, take one of our lighting classes and we'll show you how to use these things to create the effects that you'd like to create. Once again, I'm Ed Bowie, and this is
William McFarland, and thank you very much.
I think we're out of here. We have a dramatic finish. Watch this.